Welcome to my comparison of the Apple's Watch Series 5 and the Samsung Galaxy Active2. Thanks to Black Friday 2019, I was able to get a good deal on both of these watches, and I've been wearing them both ever since. It's nearly 2 weeks, one on the left and one on the right. In case you're not familiar with, throughout this video, the Apple Watch will be on the left and the Samsung on the right. So let's jump through the features. As you can see, they are definitely different in appearance. The Apple is rectangle and the Samsung is round. I do prefer round. However, I do love the display options on the front. If you take a look at the Apple, every one of those little quadrant areas can be customized, so you can put whichever app you want to show and have immediate access to that. So for instance, you see the little runner there. I just tap that and I'm right into the workout app, and I can get rolling and start any workout when I'm doing that. You don't get the same options on the Samsung. You just go with the default face, and they do have lots of faces to choose from, but you don't have quite that customization. The first feature I want to compare toe-to-toe is the music apps for each. Now, with Apple, you're going to use Apple Music, of which I have a subscription, and for Samsung, you pretty much stuck with Spotify. So I think your preference, and it's definitely in my case, will boil down to which music streaming service you prefer. Now, both have tens of millions of songs, but I do prefer Spotify. I like the way it searches music. I like the display. I like everything about it more than I do Apple Music. However, I don't think anything is really lacking in the Apple Watch when it comes to the music app. It works perfectly well. It works with Bluetooth earbuds seamlessly, just as the Samsung Watch. So I was equally pleased with both. I just think on the balance, I prefer Spotify. So in this head-to-head, I have to give a slight edge to the Samsung just because I like Spotify more. Next up in our showdown is the email app for each watch, and you can see it up there. Generally by appearance, I do prefer the Apple appearance, the block style. Both scroll down very easily among the emails that come in. However, one big advantage for the Samsung Watch is that I find that the emails are more timely. There seems to be a delay with Apple email delivery to the watch, which is not really ideal because I really do like the watch for notifications, including emails, and if they're not up to date, it's not exactly serving the purpose I seek. In this case, I have to give the edge to Samsung. Next up in our showdown is the text messaging apps. I'll say this right out of the gates, both are very, very good. I don't think you'll be disappointed with either. You can see the interface is quite different, but at the end of the day, you can scroll down through, check your text messages, you get notifications, however you like to set them up, vibrate, little alerts, so on and so forth. They both work very, very well. The text messages are delivered very timely. You can do simple replies with emojis or simple text, and there is also loaded canned responses. And so I don't think anybody would be disappointed with either of these. You can tell that both companies have put a lot into making sure the text messaging app is working really well, because no doubt it must be one of the most sought after and used apps on smartwatches. It certainly is for me. After text messaging and email apps, the heart rate monitor is my favorite feature for both watches. Now let's talk about accuracy first, because that's obviously important. I found that both watches were very, very accurate. I wore them working out. I tested them with the sensors on the exercise bike that I used, and they were both very, very accurate, almost identical. There were a few instances where the Apple Watch reported a slightly lower heart rate, but it was maybe 1 or 2 beats. So overall, I would say these companies have done an outstanding job coming up with wrist-based heart rate sensors. Now, in terms of overall functionality, I have to give the win to Apple Watch big time. Check out that graph. I love that graph. In fact, I like it so much I put it on the front display of the Apple Watch because it shows a graph of my heart rate trends throughout the day. It's something I'm interested in. I know, not for everyone, but it's definitely something I like. You don't get that with the Samsung. With Samsung, it's a little bit tedious trying to get to the heart rate app portion, as you see there on the screen. It does give you a live reading, which is pretty nice, but with Apple, it's just much easier, and the additional charting information for me, makes it a superior heart rate app. If heart rate and tracking is important to you, Apple is your watch. Let's talk app navigation. Both of the app screens you see on the watches are a one button push away, which is great. However, they are slightly different. With the Apple Watch, all the apps are displayed on that screen. You kind of float it around, you move your finger around, and the other ones that are just off the screen will appear. So you don't have to go really among different screens to find the app. With the Samsung, they're all organized in a circular fashion around the perimeter, but you must swipe from screen to screen if you have more apps than will display on one screen. I would say overall both are about similar in terms of ease of use and for finding apps and for speed. I have to give this a tie. It was a tough call, but I think both are well thought out and both are very, very user friendly. The calendars are on both watches are very similar and both are excellent, as you can see, but they both have a month view that you can access. You tap into the date and it brings you into daily views. At the daily view level is where the watches differ. You have multiple daily and event views with the Apple Watch, not so with the Samsung Watch. However, with the Samsung Watch, you can actually create new events for your calendar, whereas with Apple, you can't. So while I do prefer the views options that you have with Apple, the fact you can actually create an event with Samsung gives the edge to the Samsung. I'd be remiss to fail to discuss the actual telephone capabilities of these watches, and both are LTE, which means they can have their own cellular account and do not need to be proximate to the smartphone in order to function. In other words, you can make outgoing calls without your phone nearby and of course receive inbound calls. I haven't connected it to my cell phone, so I did not get a chance to test this. However, as you can see, the dialing pads are different, but both are effective and fairly simple to use. I have received inbound calls on both, and the mics are very, very good, as well as the outbound mic. The people I talked to on the other end didn't have a problem hearing me. So it is a pretty cool function. I generally won't just by default make a telephone call on the watch, rather just using a phone with a headset. However, in a pinch, if the phone isn't nearby, it can be very, very handy. One feature you may not consider, but it is kind of cool, is what's called the touch sensitivity, or rather how it works with gloves. Now, by default, the Apple Watch will work with a glove as long as it's a glove that will work with touch screens. I have a pair, and it worked pretty well with the Apple Watch. Now, with the Samsung, you have to go into the settings and turn on touch sensitivity, like you see there. Once on, I was really, really impressed with how sensitive the screen was. It actually worked better with my glove on than it did with the Apple. So as long as you turn it on with the Samsung, I have to give the advantage to Samsung in this regard. Well, we've got to talk about battery strength, don't we? It's kind of important. I can tell you right off the bat, the Apple battery is far superior. I got 35 hours use until I was 5% down, and I used it extensively. And with the Samsung at the 26-hour mark, I had to put it on battery conservation, which basically rendered it useless. And so I definitely have to say the Apple battery duration on a charge is far better. As for comfort, and this should not be undermined, the Apple Watch is far more comfortable than the Samsung Watch. It's not the Samsung Watch is uncomfortable. I just found it's a heavier watch face and body, and I kept sliding down my wrist. The Apple Watch stays put. In fact, I can hardly tell it's there. And lastly, I want to talk about the fitness apps. I'm going to give it a tie for both of them. I don't use the fitness apps and the health apps all that extensively. Some people do. Both are just absolutely loaded with data and metric collection and tracking. I don't think anyone would be particularly disappointed with either. And if you're looking for something even better, there are third-party fitness and health apps that you can use. and some of them are paid. But at the end of the day, for me, I found both are excellent. Final verdict, I have to give it to Apple, and that's because of the comfort factor, the battery factor, and the heart rate factor. While Samsung definitely won several categories, it's no slouch by any stretch. The Apple smartwatch is definitely the watch for me. If you have a Samsung phone and you want to continue using your Samsung phone, I can tell you this, the Samsung Galaxy Watch is probably one of the best smartwatches you can use with the Samsung phone. Thanks for watching.